When dogs go crazy on leash whenever they see another animal, there are two motivations that lead to different training strategies. Motivation number one is predatory behavior. So your dog wants to chase after whatever he's reacting to. And for those dogs, they want to get to that other animal. So they want to decrease the distance. That's completely different from a fear-motivated reactivity. So a dog who wants to get the other animal away from him or herself. That's when the dog wants to increase distance. Tell me in the comments what the motivation of your dog is. I would love to read those. Now, for training, if your dog wants to chase after the other animal, and that often happens with wildlife, with cats, with everything that's either a prey animal or just smaller than the dog. And yes, it can happen with other dogs too. That's not normal, but it can happen. So what our dogs want is get to that animal, and some dogs stop there, some dogs would go further. But what we want is that our dogs just stop and do anything else, right? It's not really that important what they do, but anything else. So what we have to reward our dogs for is stopping. And before we can expect our dogs to do that while another animal is running away from them, we need to train that in a less distracting environment. We need to train that in a situation where our dogs can actually listen to us. And we need something that tells our dog, yes, that's exactly what I want from you, and you will get a reward. And that's a marker signal. We use those for both situations and both motivations, so you definitely need a marker signal. If you have that, you can catch your dog the moment before he or she would start chasing the other animal. You can mark that little hesitation or that little stopping, and then you reward your dog with something really, really exciting. And there is the huge difference between those two motivations. If we deal with a dog who wants to chase something, we need a reward that is exciting. Your dog will probably not react to some kind of treat you hold in front of his nose because it's too boring and it doesn't fit the motivation. But what you can do is chase each other, do a tug of war, do some kind of bowling game with a treat, anything that lets your dog chase something, because that's what's fitting to your dog's motivation, and that will probably work better. Of course, those things have to be trained first as well. So you always start in an environment that is pretty distraction free, that is pretty easy for your dog, so your dog can actually learn to listen to whatever you want him to do. And then you increase the distraction. And for the hunting thing, you need to really work on very, very intense distractions. It's not that intense when you work with the second motivation, fear. And that's why dogs want to increase distance. So when this often happens when our dogs meet bigger animals, so horses, cows, anything that's bigger than our dog, because a bigger animal can be scary, right? And our dogs want them to go away because the dog cannot go away since there is a leash involved. And that's why they try to scare off the other animal with the behavior they are showing. So lunging, barking, growling, things like that. So what we have to do with our training, again, we need our marker signal, because the marker signal can catch the dog right before the dog would go crazy. And then we need to increase distance with our reward. We do increase the distance with the reward in a hunting scenario as well, but only because we want it, not because the dog wants it. So this is more difficult. If we're dealing with fear and reactivity because of fear, and this is again my specialty, I love this, it is super important that whenever we increase the distance, it's a reward for our dog in itself. So our dog doesn't only get the treat we throw, he or she also gets distance. So we have 2 rewards in one, and that makes the training so super fast. Again, if we want our dog to listen to us or to redirect the attention toward us, we need to train that beforehand. And our dogs have to be used to the marker signal also before we try it in the situation. Our dogs don't have to react toward the marker signal, so they don't have to look at us. A marker signal just tells them, this was right, you will get a reward, without them doing anything else, okay? So if the dog does not look at you, just use an attention signal, something like, or something like that, okay? That has to be trained beforehand again. But most dogs, when they hear the marker signal, since they are expecting the reward to come from mom, they will turn around and look at you. So that's the moment you can throw the treat away from whatever's scaring your dog. And that way you can, over time, get closer to whatever is scary for your dog. And every dog needs a different amount of time. Some dogs get there faster, some dogs need a little more time, and everything is okay. The only problem is if there is no progress at all, then you might need some help. And if you want to know how this looks like when your dog is reacting toward other dogs, click this video.